Hey, welcome to Rows, your next generation spreadsheet where data comes to life. In this video, we'll be talking about our computation endpoint that's available as part of our enterprise offering, which can help power any calculator on your website or mobile app using a REST API and the calculations or the workflow from your Rows spreadsheet. Let's take this as an example, which is a life insurance calculator, and you'd have to input a bunch of different details about yourself, and by the end, you'd get a value displayed to you on the website. Let's try building something similar on Rows. I already have a sample workflow ready here. So in column A, you have a bunch of different labels that I've added here. And in column B, there are a bunch of different input that can be toggled based on different values. Next, you have a base premium, which is a static value. You can change that depending on your business logic. And as far as the final premium calculation goes, this is where it is, where you have an if function, which checks if any of these fields are blank. And if so, it will just not return any value, but otherwise it will multiply the base premium based on all the different weight that has been assigned for each of these different parameters. I've also created a bunch of different tables to demo the weight of each of these different components. Now that we have this, let's dive right into the API. And for that, I'll be using Postman as my tool of choice. Before we could dive right into using Postman, we'd need two things. One is the developer docs that we have here. We would be using the computation endpoint that you can find here, and also an API key, which you can generate from your Rows workspace. If you're an owner or an admin, go to settings, Rows API, and then just click new API key. Once you have this, you're all good to go. Let's dive right back into the developer docs. And we'll be using this endpoint right here. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, open a new tab, just paste this particular endpoint here. To get the spreadsheet ID, I'm going to go back to my spreadsheet here, copy that from the URL, which you can find here. I'm just going to copy that, remove these braces, and that should do it. For authorization, I'm going to go ahead and choose bearer token here, and I'm going to go back to the keys, copy this here. And for the body, I'm going to go back to the developer docs, copy this sample data that I have here, choose raw and the JSON data format like so, paste it, beautify just so it's aligned properly, go back to my Rows table. As a quick note, you'd need to make sure that this table is being used as a form. And once that's done, you could navigate to the Rows API, copy the table ID, and let's just highlight that here, paste the table ID that we'd be using in our API call. And now let's set the input values. All I'm going to do is copy and paste the exact same values that we have on our spreadsheet here. I'm just going to copy this object too and paste it about 7 more times. Okay, now let's set the actual input values itself. So this would be B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, B7. Yep, we need one more. I'm just gonna copy this and type that as B8. Let's also set the same values that we have here. So for B2, I'm gonna copy male, replace this here. Like for B3, I'm gonna copy this, paste that in here. B4, copy that there, paste that in again. Do this a couple more times till all the values align. Change that. Yes would be here. B7 would be here. And finally, we'd have B8. And once that's done, we'd also need to configure our return ranges. In our case, we just have a single cell, which is B12. However, you can choose to return an entire range also. So you can check out our developer docs for that. And before we could make the API call, make sure that this is set to post. And once that's done, you can hit that send button. And there you go. It's 4,804. There you have it. Let's now try with a different value. For example, if I were to choose me and my partner with kids, I'm going to copy the same thing. You'd see that the values have changed to 6,400 and change. I'm going to go ahead and replace that here and hit send, and you should see the same value show up here. You can change the same thing here and see the values changing as well. So you now have 5,800 and change. Let's see if the same reflects on the spreadsheet as well. So I'm going to change to that, and there you go. You have the similar value showing up here. Now, once you've tested the API and want to see it implemented in real life, you could also do so on your own website. I've chosen Bubble as an example to demo this, and you'd be able to see the same here. So let's say I hit submit and you see the values show up here. You could say change some of the values here, and you should see the values changing in the output as well. Let's say I change my mortgage to yes and hit submit. You'd see the values increasing here. This is how quickly you can test and implement the ROSE compute endpoint on your calculators as well. I hope this video helped, and thanks for watching.